Hey everyone, Couch Investor back to another Palantir video for today. So, I've seen some discussion around the threat of Chatgpt LLMs to Palantir. Now, my last video talked about Palantir and AI and a bit of the difference there and why Palantir might actually gain some traction because of it, despite the stock not moving that much. If you want to watch that video, it's going to be in the top right corner. But in this video, I want to focus on the discussion that happened on Twitter. Now, someone on Twitter, I'll pull up the tweet, asked about a bear thesis for Palantir when it comes to OpenAI, LLMs. And so Alex from ticker symbol U answered with a good bear thesis. Again, bear theses are here to test your conviction, your bull thesis as well. Now I'll try and counter that argument. I'm not going to say that it's completely false because we did talk about this. We did say that if Palantir does not continue to innovate, execute, operate the way it did or is doing, then yes, eventually an AI program, even though Palantir has been dealing with AI for years and years, might catch up to it. Now, with regards to Alex's tweet, so he says here, solid Palantir bear thesis, Chatgpt will hurt Foundry adoption. Again, he talks about Foundry here, not the government side. Because with the government side, I don't think any LLM right now will reach the Department of Defense impact level 4 or 5 or even 6 anytime soon. So he's talking here specifically about Foundry, commercial side of things. So the ability to use AI is now accessible to everyone. Many Foundry features can be automated by OpenAI and Zapier. This lowers the need for Palantir's commercial tools, which ups the barrier for companies to switch. Okay, so let's start with the first one. The ability to use AI is now accessible to everyone, which is true, and I think it has been true for a while, but right now because of the rise of ChatGPT and other programs out there, then yes, it gained some popularity, and it's true, it is becoming a sort of, let's say, commodity because every other big tech company is coming out with their own LLMs as well. Now, to say that many Foundry features can be automated by OpenAI and Zapier, to me, I don't think that's 100% accurate. Of course, some tasks can be automated. OpenAI, ChatGPT, if you've tested and played with it, you know what it can do, but you also know that it gets a lot of things wrong. Remember, it's still behind on the data, right? It's not really up to date as of yet. And also, it doesn't always understand reality. It gives you an answer which it perceives to be 100% correct, because the sentence is correct, the paragraph is correct, the structure of the question and the answers is correct. But does that mean that it's correct in our reality? No, not at all. With regards to Zapier, again, it's some kinds of software automation where, let's say, you're in sales, you have some leads, okay, some automatic emails here, puts it into an Excel, updates you in Slack, etc., etc. Not something really revolutionary that a big company isn't already using today. Now, in the future, of course, with plugins, things might change, right? Plugins will change the game. We've talked about plugins in the past on this channel. Video will be in the top right corner. Now, this lowers the need for Palantir commercial tools, which ups the barrier for companies to switch. Again, it's all about trust, in my opinion. You can make the case that for small companies, it doesn't really matter much, right? Doesn't matter much. I think OpenAI can do the trick for small companies. But for bigger companies, I don't think OpenAI will do the trick because there is probably lack of trust here. There's a lot of things that need to be put in place for big companies that are responsible for a lot of things, healthcare, security, production, manufacturing, you name it. I don't think they'll trust right now. Maybe in the future, yes, but maybe in the future, Palantir would already have adapted to the situation. I think trust is very important here. And again, I want to make this clear. Big businesses rather buy than build. They rather buy a service that Palantir offers than build something themselves in-house where it will take some time, A/B test, etc., etc. Maybe that might change in the future, but right now I'm pretty confident to say that a lot of businesses rather buy than build. So that's the first part. Now, if you enjoy this type of videos, I would really appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you have not, and if you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to get the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couch investor. Now, up next, I want to talk about the, well, not elephant in the room, but let's be honest. If I'm giving you AI today in your house, would you fully trust it? I'm giving you now the software. It will supposedly improve the way you live in your house. Do you trust it? In my opinion, I don't think a lot of people would trust it. Of course, we'll say, oh, but don't you have Alexa at home? Don't you have Google's at home? Yes, true. But who's behind that? A company I already trusts. Well, trust, quote unquote, trust. And again, the question here becomes, does it really understand reality? Right? We've talked about ontology in the last video. Is this a factor that has been taken under consideration when applying or building upon OpenAI today? Probably not as much as Palantir. And in a recent interview, Alex Karp said it himself. It will be an intersection between business logic, which defines how a business operates, laws and ethics or business norms, and LLMs. All those three together. And this is what Palantir is offering here. Because when you have OpenAI's Chatgpt integrated with your company, let's say, or with multiple companies, I don't know, because with Palantir, of course, multiple companies work there, or the software works and the data, it's all intertwined, it's all connected. But there is governance. There is exactly what he said, business logic, norms, and then working with LLMs. Because you wouldn't want every company to have access to certain data. You wouldn't want every employee to have access to all the data. No, there need to be rules, there need to be ethics, laws in place, restrictions, security, all of that needs to be put in place. Again, we're not talking about the government side of things, we're talking about Foundry. But Foundry deals with big companies, big commercial companies as well. They don't want everyone to have access to their data. They don't want every employee to go sniffing around every other department there. Of course not. So again, the direction I'm going here is they would love, or they would rather have Palantir or Palantir software, Palantir AI capabilities today than having something like OpenAI, which again is still being played around with. It's not the final product. Of course, GPT-5, 6 might be exceptional, but there's still those risks, there's still those restrictions and also regulations attached to it, right? We talk about regulations. Palantir has been in this business for a long time. OpenAI, Chatgpt, not that long. Also, proven track record. Palantir, OpenAI. I think it's pretty easy to say who the winner is. Now, going on to the next tweet. So Hans here is asking and replying on a tweet that talks about, well, finding what you're looking for, asking the right question, etc. So he says here, my understanding of Foundry is that it uncovers hidden potential of your corporation and that it's doing that continuously. It also reacts to potential changes or events in the real world. That's how it might prevent some terrorist attacks, etc. But again, we're talking about Foundry here, not the government side of things. So Alex here answers, nah, you don't need to know what you're searching for. You can ask ChatGPT to reveal trends. Heck, you can even have GPT ask you questions to help it find the right things to show you. The event-driven thing is solved by API calls, plugins, and automations. And 100% agree with him here, so I'll pull up my own ChatGPT prompt that I've been using for the last couple of weeks. If you want, you can copy it. So I basically said this. I want you to become my prompt creator. Your goal is to help me craft the best possible prompt for my needs. The prompt will be used by you, ChatGPT. You will follow the following process. 1. Your first response will be to ask me what the prompt should be about. I will provide my answer, but we will need to improve it through continual iteration by going through the next steps. 2. Based on my input, you will generate 3 sections. A. Revised prompt. Provide your rewritten prompt. It should be clear, concise, and easily understood by you. B. Suggestions. Provide the suggestions on what details to include in the prompt to improve it. And C. Questions. Ask any relevant questions pertaining to what additional information is needed from me to improve the prompt. And 3. We'll continue this iterative process with me providing additional information to you and you updating the prompt in the revised prompt section until it's complete. So if you don't know what you're looking for, it can help you know what you will be looking for by asking you questions. You will respond with information, etc., etc. Now, if you're a subscriber of my Substack, you've probably got a update 1 week ago talking about AI. Guess what? The whole article was written using this prompt right here. If you're curious how it looks like, it's free. Link is down in the description. But again, you could adopt this on a larger scale. Of course, again, the question here is, where are the restrictions? Because it can ask you questions that maybe you, the employee, should not or doesn't have enough information about, and maybe you shouldn't really have information about that. So again, it all comes down to the same thing. Palantir has already put everything in place for or to be working with businesses from the start. Of course, personalization, it takes some time to adopt it. But OpenAI right now, Chatgpt, is running wild. There's really not many rules attached to it, especially not many regulations. Now, we also can talk about, do we need to pause AI, etc.? No, I don't think we do. And Alex Karp said something that I think most of us should agree. The adversaries aren't stopping, right? They are not stopping. They don't really care about. So if we are stopping, we will be falling behind, and that becomes even a bigger threat. Now, talking about competing LLMs here, again, in those countries, we talked about this with the Alibaba video. In certain countries, especially in China, maybe in Russia as well, but especially in China, there are already some restrictions when developing such a technology. So if there are already restrictions in place developing such a technology, you know that it won't be able to compete with the Western version of it. But of course, in the West, believe it or not, they might be feeding the LLM some lies as well. It might be biased. It might be sometimes leaning in a certain political way. Yes, could be. Those are all the things that you have to take into consideration when you want to compare Palantir and something like OpenAI, especially if you're a company that wants to adopt either Palantir or you want to do it yourself with OpenAI. So of course, there are some dangers here with OpenAI taking maybe some customers away from what could be potential Foundry customers. 100% agree with that. But now that we're talking all the time about ChatGPT, let me present to you AutoGPT. So AutoGPT here, for example, can be a plugin. You tell him, order me a pizza, and it basically becomes your AI personal assistant on your browser, goes on Domino's website, orders you a pizza, know exactly what you wanted, puts in the details, delivery, checkout, and you're done. We can go even one step further, and these are all companies that are building their own, let's say, models on top of the base layer. So in this case, market research for the top 5 shoe brands, and then you give him a couple of tasks here, and it basically does the research for you. It doesn't do one thing and then stops, and then you're asking it the same thing. No, it already adapts to what it finds. It finds the top 5 shoe brands based on market share and popularity. Then up next, analyze customer reviews, etc., etc. And at the end, it will come to a conclusion. Now, this is next level. This is something that is not behind closed doors. Goes on the internet and start crawling around, finding the information that it needs, make some conclusions. I've seen someone, I don't know why I didn't find the video yet, but someone basically making a game, asking to make a game. Usually what happens, it starts to code, etc., etc., and then it runs into a problem and tells you you need to install this in your Python or Java or whatever. But in this case, It didn't ask anything. It's like, oh, you're missing this node or whatnot. I'll download it automatically, integrate it, moves on. Next problem, no problem. Let me fix that. Goes on and on and on. And that's it. One prompt and they're done. This is next level. Now, of course, again, does it reflect reality? Does it understand the rules, the laws, and the ethics? I don't know yet. And this is, to me, a bare thesis breaker. And this is what Palantir brings to the table. Of course, in the future, with everything that goes on right now, the innovation is extremely fast. So things can change extremely fast as well. Of course, do share your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of videos, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.